Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. Game week 8 is well underway. The Premier League has come and gone from the past weekend, and in this video we will be diving into the scores, seeing who has scored the most points and seeing who has potentially worked their way into our squads for game week 9 and onwards. But before we get any further, I'd like to thank you all for the support on the channel. It's greatly appreciated. If you could hit that subscribe button, we're on the road to 1,300 subscribers. Hit the like button as well. It pushes the content out to all Sun Dream Team players. And don't forget to hit the bell notification while you're down there as well. Make sure you don't miss a video in your subscription box and all that good stuff. Now, without further ado, let's crack on with the video. The first game of the weekend was Nottingham Forest 0, Chelsea 3 at the City Ground. Chelsea coming out with 3 points in a what historically would have been a difficult fixture. Forest gave it their all in this game, actually unlucky not to score several times. I think Igor Jesus hit the underside of the bar, hit the inside of the post, and it rebounded out at one stage. But Chelsea showed a lot of fight in this one. 0-0 at half time. Maresca rung the changes, and it benefited them massively. Mark Guehi and Gittins coming on at half time with Moises Caicedo, one of 3 big key players for Chelsea, not fit enough to start this fixture. You had Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, who was a no-show completely. So for those of you who did have him in your teams, I'm sure you've already used a substitute booster chip to potentially move him on to one of the teams that played on Saturday evening or Sunday. I'm not sure when he's going to be back. We spoke about it in a previous video with regards to his injury severity. Still yet to get any more information on that front, unfortunately, for those of you who do own him or potentially want to bring him into your teams. The big scorers in this game was Agyemangpong, a young centre-half they brought in for this one. Great header into the top corner, picked up a clean sheet as well. Other players to note, Pedro Neto getting the goal and an assist, 17-pointer, been fairly consistent this season on Chelsea's flanks, playing both on the right and the left at times. And Reece James, a throwback. It was in my big differentials video from last week for game week 8, and he came up trumps as well. A 19-pointer in this one, picking up a bonus point, a goal, and an assist. A very solid return for those of you who did plump for him this week. Malo Gusto, 5 points in this one. He did get the clean sheet, but he's let you owners down massively. It was 3-0 up at this stage. I didn't even know he'd already been booked. The referee brandished a card, me thinking it was just going to be a yellow. Second yellow, red card, and Chelsea continue their streak. I think it's about 5 or 6 games at least, whether it's players or managers being sent off, where someone has actually been given a red card. Very silly decision from him. Absolutely no need to make such a stupid tackle towards the back end of the game. I mean, he's been sent off in, what is it, the 89th or 90th minute, something ridiculous. So for those of you who do own him, that's a bit of a headache going into the Premier League game for game week 9. Forest, on the other hand, Matt Sells in goals, picking up just the 1 point. We'll get to my team at the back end of the video, but he was under serious consideration with regards to a potential goalkeeper transfer heading into the game week 8 deadline. Forest don't look like they was going to keep any clean sheets. That was never under my assumption. It was more, it was in the region of 2.7, 2.8 million, and I thought for that value he might be decent. Picked up, I think it was a save point or 2. No bonus points, and just a 1 pointer for him. Other players to note in the Forest side that a few of you might potentially have: Zinchenko just with a 4-pointer, brought off after 74 minutes. Nico Williams just a 1-pointer as well. He's been picking up quite a few over the last few weeks, even when they've not been keeping clean sheets, but just a single pointer for him. Elliot Anderson got bumped up from Saturday to Sunday overnight from the 3 bonus point threshold to the 5 bonus point threshold. 12 on the PPM system, where he was stuck at 11 going into the Sunday. Very good for owners like myself. I'll be intrigued to see how this Forest team changes under their potential new manager, Sean Dyche, that is. I find that very difficult to say for some reason. But Sean Dyche at the helm, we know what he's going to bring to this Forest side, what he did at Burnley, what he did at Everton. Make them very solid at the back, make them very difficult to beat. I wouldn't expect too much going forward, not much flamboyancy, and I would also expect Chris Wood to be brought back. In most of the Sean Dyche teams, he plays with very much a target man centre forward. In his Everton days, it was Calvert-Lewin. At Burnley, it was Chris Wood, ironically, with Sam Vokes. Bit of a throwback name there. So I'd expect Chris Wood to come back into the Forest side. Gibbs White, only a 3-pointer. But in all, Forest look really poor once again. Of course, they have now sacked Ange Postecoglou, and as I said, Sean Dyche is on the verge of potentially being appointed their manager. So for our assets such as Elliot Anderson, one of my own personal players, I'm intrigued to see how it affects him. Does he lose that licence to go forward, or that combativeness in midfield that he's had under the previous managers this season? It's definitely one to keep a close eye on. As for Chelsea, looking good. Second victory in a row. Beat Liverpool at home in game week 7. Forest away in game week 8. They're looking good. And that is without key assets as well. The game of the weekend in my eyes, Crystal Palace 3, Bournemouth 3. This game had everything. It had a hat-trick, had potential VAR decisions, we had double assists from our flying wing-backs. Bournemouth giving as good as they get, pushing it to the very last minute. Palace could have potentially won this game. MATETA should have added to his 3 goals, picking up potentially a 4th as well. He had a great chance, blazing it over the bar. Points-wise for Bournemouth, I think the only player really to note currently is Semenyo. He got 5 points in this game. He picked up a very, very early booking, got booked in the first minute for a tug back on a Palace player as they was breaking away. He got a fortuitous assist, but then he also got an assist that wasn't given his way, which was an interesting one to say the least. Just the 5-pointer. Of course, he is into the single game week territory now. Last week, it was either game week 7 or game week 6, he picked up the 20-pointer. So maybe it's time to shift him on. He is still in the top 6 point scorers in the entire game, which is ridiculous for saying Bournemouth lost very early in the Carabao Cup. So that's mainly been single game weeks. As for Crystal Palace, Dean Henderson in goal, picking up just the 1-pointer. There is a interesting thing to note with regards to Crystal Palace. I think after the game against Larnaca in the Europa League, they have 4 games in 8 days that consists of 2 Premier League ties, another Conference League tie, and a Carabao Cup tie away to Liverpool. The manager's come out, he said as long as he gets the okay from the medical staff, there won't be too much rotation, but there might be some. Now, as someone who's got quite a few Palace assets, that's quite worrying. Dean Henderson being one of them for me. I'll get to that in a little while. Lacroix got downgraded from 2 points to 1 point overnight, going from the Saturday to Sunday. Chris Richards for just a 2-pointer as well. Mark Guéhi picking up yet another assist. Now, for those of us who don't own him, they target him at these long throw-ins, whether it's Chris Richards or somebody else on the pitch. Guéhi is normally the first point of contact at that near post. When he gets a flick on, very similar to the goal that they scored in the last minute at home to Liverpool a few weeks ago, he seems to be the target, which is surprising because he's probably the smallest out of the 3 centre-halves on the pitch. I think the only other time I can note one of them bullet header in them was Lacroix a few weeks ago away to West Ham when he hit the bar. So Guéhi's picking up these bits and pieces even when they're still conceding. Wharton with a 3-pointer, Mitchell with just a 2-pointer. I think Mitchell is definitely one in the week against Larnaca who will get rotated for Borna Sosa. We spoke about this before. He is the least likely to play both fixtures out of all of the back 5. Kamada picking up 5 points once again. He is a player that's been plodding along in my team very well, picking up bits and pieces. He seems to be stuck between that 3.2 to 3.8 million range. Doesn't seem to move, but he's a decent asset. Daniel Munoz, 10-pointer once again, 2 assists in this one. Once Palace were down in this game, he was basically right wing. Couple of fantastic assists, great balls into the box. Could have had a goal. Great save by the goalkeeper, but in that price range, it's exactly what you're hoping for. It's 5.7 million, I think, 5.8 million, which is a very, very expensive price to pay for a defender. But is he really a defender? He's categorised as a defender on the game. He'll get the clean sheet points, but he's so high up the pitch, I don't see how he is a defender. Pino with just a 2-pointer in this one, got brought off for Eddie Nketiah, and that actually turned the tide for Crystal Palace in this game. Sarr with just a 2-pointer, a very popular asset on Sun Dream Team. And of course, the man of the moment, pretty much the MVP of the Premier League weekend so far. So for those of you who did go for him, well done. It was in my big differentials video last week. Not because of anything in particular, but it did show on that graph how many shots on target he had compared to the other players on that list at the time. It was a big dark green box, and that is the reason why. He amassed 3.48 expected G in this one. I believe they are the exact statistics. one of the biggest, if not the biggest, single player statistic in Opta history. 3 goals. As I said, he should have scored a fourth. He missed an absolute sitter in the dying seconds of this game. We know he's on penalties now that Eze isn't at the club anymore. He took his 2 goals very well. He will get rotated in one of the fixtures in the out of the next 4. He's certainly on the radar for me going forward. It's not knee-jerk in any way, shape or form. I think I'm more hoping that that second or third attacking asset will just break free from the pack. It's been the Erling Haaland show so far this season. I put a little comment in the Dream Team Tonic podcast, one of their live streams the other day, asking about who will break the mould with regards to strikers, and it looks like MATETA has come out the blocks firing on that front. Not too much to know. Only one substitution off the bench for Palace, that is. So it does show that they don't quite trust the level of ability coming off the bench compared to their starting 11. While they're fit and firing, they're going to do really, really well. I can see players like Will Hughes, Borna Sosa, Eddie Nketiah getting a few minutes off the bench. Well, sorry, starting in the week. And will Benitez start? I've seen quite a few predicted lineups for Crystal Palace with Benitez in goal. Personally, I know he did well against Millwall and he got them through in the cup, but Henderson's heroics got him here in the cup final. Without his penalty save and without his just general play, top tier saves, he wouldn't have been in this competition. So to start him in the first game, keep a clean sheet and then rotate him, I think that might be a little bit harsh. This is a goalkeeper in Dean Henderson that's been around the houses. He was at Sheffield United for a while. He was on Man United's bench. So for him to finally earn and play in Europe and then get dropped for it, or I should say rested rather than dropped, would be really quite harsh. And I've got my fingers crossed as a potential Dean Henderson owner that he does start that Larnaca game, because that is one of the reasons he might have been brought in. Manchester City 2, Everton 0. Now, did anybody actually expect Everton to score in this game? I didn't personally. Jack Grealish being ineligible against his parent club really hampered their attacking threat, and it looked like the Everton team from a previous season without that kind of flair. Iliman Ndiaye, fantastic performance. Should have got an assist. Beto missed an absolute sitter in the first half, and that was probably one of their best chances in the game, really. Took a shot, decent save from Donnarumma, but players to note from the Everton side, of course, they're now out the Carabao Cup after losing to Wolves, I think it was. Ndiaye with a 7-pointer. Tarkowski picking up just a 2-pointer. Not too much to note on the Everton side of things. As for Manchester City, starting with a very similar side to what we've seen over the past several game weeks. Donnarumma, one of my options that I should have brought in goal this week. It was between Sells, Henderson and Donnarumma for that mid-range price. Picking up the 8 points, getting the clean sheet. No save points, but did we expect that? And getting a bonus point as well. Ruben Dias with a 7-pointer. Nico O'Reilly with the 8-pointer. Such a shame he's not classified as a defender, because I think a lot of us would have got him in our teams by now. I mean, he's picking up 8 points and he's not even getting the clean sheet points. Nunes at right back, 10-pointer. Ake with the 8-pointer. So Gavardio missing out in this one, and he would have been a very highly owned player, especially with regards to covering off the Manchester City defence. I think Gavardio and Donnarumma would be the main two out that back four and goalkeeper situation. Phil Foden picking up 8 points, 3 bonus points on the board for him. No goal contributions, but still a very respectable return. Doku with just a 3-pointer, same as Reinders with the 3-pointer, brought off prior to that 60-minute mark, so definitely one to note for those of you who have brought him in. The rotation is coming. I spoke about it in a previous video. The Pep Roulette, they've got a lot more options now. I mean, they've got brought off sub 60 minutes and Marmoush hasn't even gotten onto the pitch. So that's something to note. Savinio, 10-pointer, getting the assist in this one. But the big man up front, Erling Haaland, 18-pointer, 2 goals, 4 shots on target, I believe. Ridiculous return. And even close to a bonus point, just to put the cherry on the icing on the top of the cake. He's blown the scoring out of the water this season. I captained in this week, spoiler alert, as I'm sure 99.9% of the top 1,000 would have done. Ridiculous return so far this season. The only thing I'd say about Man City is currently they're doing exceptionally well. But, and it's a big but, the goal distribution is very heavily sided towards Erling Haaland. There's not a lot of other players currently chipping in. Now, this form is incredible. Can it last with a player of his ability? Absolutely. Will they struggle if he gets injured? Most definitely. Any club in the world would struggle without the ability and the talent of Erling Haaland up front. But whilst he's like this, is he just perma-captain material? Into game week 9? I'm not too sure. Fulham 0, Arsenal 1. 1-0 to the Arsenal, as the saying goes. As you can tell by the smile on my face, once again, a very positive result at a ground that we've struggled at predominantly over the past few seasons. Haven't won there since, I think, 2022 or 2023. Another hoodoo off our backs. In the last 3 games, we played very difficult fixtures. In the reverse of the fixtures in the last campaign, we only picked up, I think it was either 1 or 2 points. To pick up 9 out of them shows a very solid return. On the Fulham side of things, Iwobi, Leno and Cuenca picking up 5 points, but not a lot to note from their side of things. As for Arsenal, keeping the clean sheet, I don't even think Fulham had a shot, and that's back-to-back games against teams. It was the same with West Ham at home prior to the international break, and it's the same away to Fulham as well. Didn't even have a shot on target. That back four, goalkeeper, and I'm going to include the 2 in midfield as well in front of them with Declan Rice and Zubimendi. They're just incredible. Their positional awareness, the way that they're structured in defensive transitions and attacking transitions, makes it so hard for the opposition to play against. When we was against West Ham prior to the international break, Eze was in that number 8 role beside Zubimendi, and it didn't work. Of course, Odegaard was in the number 10, Eze was in the number 8. You had Declan Rice, sorry, it was Zubimendi who wasn't playing in that game, he was on the bench. And it didn't work, because when they drop into that 4-4-2 defensive formation, the number 8 is a old-fashioned second midfielder in the midfield 4, and he didn't have the physicality for it. Back to what we know in this one. Zubimendi, Rice and Eze playing in that number 10 position with an injured Odegaard once again. Doesn't look like we'll see him until after the next international break. So a few of you might have plumped for Eze in this one. Only 3 points in this particular fixture. Brought off after 62 minutes. Didn't look very effective. I was crying out throughout this game for him to be moved over to the left-hand side, take Trossard off the pitch. I was proved wrong. Trossard gets the goal, and that's what he does. He doesn't. When you watch the game as an Arsenal fan, you're so frustrated. You're seeing Martinelli on the bench. You're seeing Eze not have the space. Arsenal switching the ball from one side to the other, leaving Trossard one-on-one with their right back, and he's not doing anything with it. And then he comes up, it hits him on the leg, it hits him on the thigh from a corner, goes into the back of the net. It reminds me a little bit of Frederick Ljungberg from back in the day. Very much a goal-scoring winger with a smidge of creativity. You won't see him for large parts, but he'll get you the important goals. Calafiori, 7-pointer. Saliba, 7-pointer. Timber with the 8. I know quite a few people this week brought in a defensive asset from Arsenal, whether that be Timber, Calafiori, or Gabriel, who picked up an 11-pointer in this one. Got the assist. I didn't actually notice it at first, the flick from the corner. I thought it was going to be a Saka assist. But Gabriel got a little flick at the near post. Went to Trossard at the back stick. Big chance created for Gabriel, getting the assist point as well. Didn't get any bonus points in this one, but I'll gladly take that 11-point return on top of the clean sheet. Zubimendi with just a 2-pointer. Declan Rice, disappointing 3-pointer in this one. Didn't have too many set pieces on that side, which would have bumped his bonus points up, of course. Saka, huge return. No goals, no assists, but a 10-pointer. He went up 0.2 in price from 6.1 to 6.3 from game week 7 to game week 8. And it's one of them ones where, are we slowly being priced out of Saka? When we looked at it at the start of the season, we had Bruno Fernandes, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, all within a very similar price range in that midfield. Saka picked up his injury, went out of our thoughts for quite some time. He's well and truly back in our thoughts now. 13 on the PPM system, max bonus points overall. 5 bonus, a shot on target as well, and picked up a tackle point in the process. A really solid return for a game where he hasn't returned in a goal or assist manner. Gyökeres, disappointing once again. A couple of shots on target from him, but it doesn't really fill me full of confidence when he gets through on goal. There was several instances he got through one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He wrestled the defender out the well. He did exceptionally well. And then he just seems flustered taking his shot. He seems like he wants to snap at it and just get the shot off on target. There was an instance as well on his left foot. He fought the Fulham centre off. It bounced over his head. It was on his left foot. And that, to me, was his best chance of the game. And he blazed it over the bar. Now, it won't come up as a point on this one, but they're the ones I expect him to score. It's not very fair, of course, but I do compare him to Erling Haaland. When you look currently at Arsenal's Premier League title rivals, you've got Chelsea, who currently don't have a centre forward of sorts. You've got Liverpool, who've got Isak and Ekitike. Ekitike started the season really well. Alexander Isak, not so much, but still lots of quality. And Manchester City, Erling Haaland's just carrying them on his shoulders so far this season. So when I compare Gyökeres to them, I do feel like he is a step down, or maybe even a step or two down in quality, but it's what he's doing for the other players. As we can see in this one, Saka picking up max bonus points. In previous seasons, he'd have 2 or 3 players doubling or tripling up on him, not letting him have any creativity. But with Gyökeres and his physicality, he's pinning their opposition back fours back. He's allowing space for the midfielders behind him to create a lot more. And it was quite noticeable that on the corner where Trossard scored, there was 3 or 4 players around Gyökeres. Whether that was just coincidental, where they're marking the space rather than the player, I'm not too sure. Martinelli coming off the bench, just a 2-pointer. Mikel Moreno coming off the bench as well with just a 2-pointer. He was very anonymous in this game compared to his Spanish antics over the international break. But a 1-0 win. Defensively, solid once again. Declan Rice underwhelming, and Bukayo Saka showing doesn't need goals or assists to bring in the points. Tottenham 1, Aston Villa 2. A surprise result in this one. In the first 20 or 30 minutes watching this game, Tottenham, of course, picked up the goal. Bentancur getting the nice little finish. Palhinha coming in at the back stick, knocking the ball back across goal. And it was well deserved at the time. Tottenham were well on top. Villa were struggling to get the ball going, playing out from the back. Tottenham were all over them. Villa slowly worked their way back into the game. A very nice goal from Morgan Rogers. Xavi Simons, a bit of a weak tackle in midfield. The ball breaks back to Morgan Rogers. He lets the shot fly from 25 yards out or so. To me, Vicario has to do a lot better with that goal. It's straight down the middle. It's not in the corner. There's a little bit of movement, but you'd expect a goalkeeper of his quality to even get a hand on it at the very least. Nowhere near it once again. And to me, this Tottenham side is slowly moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot of players that are underwhelming, and he is one of them. When you compare him to even a team like Chelsea, where I'm sure Tottenham are aiming for that 4th place position in the league, you'd say Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City are a little bit above the rest with regards to quality across the board. So you've got Newcastle, you've got Tottenham, you've got Villa, you've got Chelsea going for that 4th, potentially 5th position, depending on how well the teams do in Europe. You could even throw Man United into the mix with their recent resurgence that we'll get to in a little while. For Tottenham, Romero pulled up in the warm-up. It was a no-show in this one. For those of you who did goal boost this week, there was a few in the top 10 currently in my leaderboard that have either goal boost or substituted out Enzo Fernandez. Romero to be a no-show as well was quite disappointing. Pedro Porro was just a 2-pointer. Palhinha, a decent budget option, the same as Bentancur. Bentancur with a 10-pointer getting the goal. Palhinha, 10 tackles in this game. Now, from his Fulham days, that is very much to be expected. For those of us who played Sky Fantasy back in the day, you'll know how good he was on that. So 12 points for Palhinha. Papsar, once again on the bench. Now for me, I shifted him out this week. I was sick to death of seeing him come off the bench and hope for a 5-minute cameo where he returns of sorts. But Tottenham, it's not quite clicking at the minute. They're struggling without a recognised centre forward. They had Richarlison come off the bench. You had Kolo Muani make his league debut. But I think without the physical presence of Dominic Solanke, we can't quite see completely how this Tottenham side are going to work. I think Mohamed Kudus, a very quiet game for him, just a 4-pointer. I think he's one of these players where if he doesn't pick up a goal or an assist, he's going to generally range between 4 and 7 or 8 points. For Aston Villa, started the season very slowly. Just 1 goal in their first 5 games, and that was a Matty Cash goal from long range. They've kicked into form after their win in the Europa League, and it's continued here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. 6 points for Luca Digne. Now, Matty Cash only picked up 3 points in this game with a bonus point, but his pass out wide to Emi Buendia, he dragged it out the sky. It's one of the passes of the season. You won't find better than that. He's hit it on the, not even the half volley, on the full volley. 50, 60 yards. Buendia's pulled it out over his shoulder. Incredible first touch. It's just a phenomenal goal. I think it was Buendia, not Digne. I know Digne got the assist for it. But as a goal, it was almost picturesque. Cutting in, Buendia sliding it into the bottom corner. Once again, would Vicario have got near it? I don't think so. But he just kind of left it. And you look at that Tottenham back four and the goalkeeper situation. Udogie wasn't even in the squad. Pedro Porro, of course, offers a lot going forward. Danso, I'm not sold on him yet as a defender. Van der Ven picking up 0 points, of course. He was a very highly owned asset at the start of the season. Few people slowly moving away from him. His ownership is dipping down ever so slightly. Picked up a 0 pointer in this one. Got booked fairly early on for a tackle on Morgan Rogers. But the Villa side of things, Emi Martinez started this one despite worries over a potential calf injury that he's nursing. Ezra Konsa, a player that I've got on my own team, just a 2-pointer. He was on 3 points at one stage, so he has been knocked down. John McGinn, 4-pointer. Boubacar Kamara, 7-pointer as well. Morgan Rogers, a big 9-pointer. If you look at your scores over the last, I'd say 3 to 4 game weeks, he's slowly becoming the Morgan Rogers that we saw last season. Not as many bonus points yet, not as many tackles, but the assists and the goals are starting to come. Daniel Marlon actually started this game. He was in my Game Week 8 differential video last week, bargained at around 2.8 million. Didn't do too much in this game at all, but he started, and for 2.8 million, I'd take that, I guess. You'd expect he starts in the Europa League as well in midweek, which meant Ollie Watkins started on the bench and came in the 61st minute. Just 1 pointer for him. I think that was a consequence of his injury when he was on international duty with England. I don't think that's going to be the norm going forward. It's not going to be like Daniel Marlon is playing all the minutes and Watkins is suddenly a bench player. I don't think that's the case. But Villa picking up a very, very good 2-1 victory away to Tottenham, which is quite interesting because you see the statistics. Tottenham at home this season have been quite poor. They drew at home to Wolves. They've lost at home to Villa. Yet away from home, it's a different story. So a little trend to potentially keep an eye on. And the final game so far in Game Week 8, that is, across the Premier League. There's still one on Monday night. I'm tempted to say it's Brentford, West Ham or something like that. Doesn't really affect us too much in Sun Dream Team, that is. There might be the odd Brentford defender out there, or the odd Jared Bowen or Lucas Paqueta. But on the whole, it's mainly European teams. Liverpool 1, Manchester United 2. Incredible result for Man United. Their first victory at Anfield in 10 or so years. And on the whole, it was probably deserved. Now, I know Liverpool hit the post, well, specifically Cody Gakpo hit the post 3 times himself before getting on the score sheet. But in that first 25, 30, 35 minute spell in the first half, Man United were all over Liverpool. They should have scored 2 or 3 goals. Of course, Brian Mbeumo picked up the goal inside the first 2 minutes. McAllister getting a big whack on the back of the head by Van Dijk. The referee probably should have stopped the game. He didn't. Van Dijk very slow to get back into position, and Mbeumo capitalised on it, slotting the ball past Mamardashvili, who was another goalkeeper option that I could have potentially gone for this week. He picked up 2 points. We'll start with the Man United side as they're not in Europe currently. Harry Maguire picking up the 84th minute winner. Now, if you cast your mind back to the exact fixture last season, I think it was 2-2 or 1-1 at the time. Maguire had practically an open goal when it got squared to him and he smashed it over the bar. So this was some sort of redemption for him. At the exact same end, he missed that shot. Great header. If you've watched England over the years, you'll know he's very much capable of those kind of goals. Other players to note, Lemens with a 4-pointer looks a substantial upgrade on Bayindir. Bruno Fernandes, 7 points, picked up a bonus point, getting the assist for the Harry Maguire goal. It's quite sad this year that we don't have to have him in our teams with regards to Europe and stuff. I kind of miss him being in our team, picking up those bits and pieces. Amad Diallo with a 4-pointer. Brian Mbeumo with the 11-pointer. Now moving on to Liverpool, potential team in crisis. I'm not sure. 4 defeats in a row. This game, Man United, they deservedly won, but it had echoes of Liverpool's past game against Chelsea. Getting back into it, 78th minute at Anfield, the crowd are up. In the previous seasons, you'd fully expect Liverpool to go on to get the winner. Even Gary Neville on commentary said about the Chelsea game last week, or sorry, the week prior, the international break, where Liverpool got back into it and was sucker punched at the end by the Esteval goal. Very similar circumstances. You see Cody Gakpo at the back stick. He goes to push out and try and counter-attack as the ball's getting put into the box. Very similar to Frimpong away to Crystal Palace, where Nketiah got in from the flick from Mark Guéhi. Whether it's a defensive thing or whether it's just that motto and mantra of Liverpool having too many attacking players on the pitch at once, they ended up in a 4-2-4 formation with the midfield two being, I think it was Szoboszlai and Wirtz at one stage. That's all that attack. That is zero balance in midfield. When you've got Endo on the bench, was Endo on the bench? Endo wasn't on the bench. That's my apologies. I thought he was. But when you've got Curtis Jones coming onto the pitch as well, when you've got Ekitike, you've got Isak, you've got Salah, who we'll get to in a little bit. You've got Gakpo. You've got two fullbacks, especially when you've got Connor Bradley. He's very much a front foot forward kind of fullback. And as for Kirkes on the left-hand side, he is really struggling to fill the boots what Andy Robertson has had for many a year at Liverpool. The fullback situation, they've gone from Trent and Robertson to Kirkes and Connor Bradley. I think it was quite telling in this fixture that the players that started on the bench for Liverpool, you had Ekitike, you had Wirtz, and you had Frimpong. Lots of new signings out in the cold, basically. I think it's very harsh on Ekitike. If you watch Liverpool, their best two attackers this season, best three, you see Gakpo on the left, consistently picks up goals and in attacking positions. Ekitike up front, he started the season really well, getting goals and assists. I think he's sending off against Southampton, potentially knocked him back a little bit. Not confidence-wise, just in the eyes of the manager and the players. And I'd say Chiesa as well. He's had very limited minutes, yet he's been highly effective. Even in this game, he's coming off the bench, only 20 minutes to prove himself, and he gets the assist. You ask the manager after each game, you ask Arne Slot, is he going to play? He just kind of goes, yes, and then doesn't act upon it. So Liverpool, they've got a lot of issues. No Alisson in goal. This is probably one of the worst games I've seen Van Dijk actually have for Liverpool defensive-wise. He was all over the shop. There's not a lot of build-up going through that midfield. And Gravenberch potentially might have picked up a knee-related injury as well. So without him in that midfield, he is the one linchpin. They kept him fit all season last year despite not investing in a holding midfielder. They've gone into the same season again this year without investing into a holding midfield position. They actually went for Zubimendi in the 24-25 season. Didn't follow it up this year. And I do feel like if Gravenberch is out for a prolonged period of time, they might be in a smidge more trouble than we've already seen. Can they pull it back together? Can they recuperate the season? Absolutely. They've got so much potential on the pitch and off the pitch, attacking wise. They've just got to sort things out defensively. The manager keeps moaning about set pieces, yet they beat Burnley with a penalty, they beat Arsenal with a free kick, and I'm sure that they've picked up another win. I think it was Atletico Madrid in the last minute from a corner for Van Dijk. So Liverpool have been a beneficiary of set pieces, but clearly defending them, they're struggling a little bit with the physicality that's been brought to the Premier League this season. As for Mo Salah, 4 points in this one. Big chance created, shot on target, missed a very good chance at the back post. Now, if you actually watch the clip, you'll see Curtis Jones in the middle of the pitch running off celebrating before Salah's kicked the ball. Now, that's the level of confidence that they've had in him for how many years. They expect the ball to fall to his feet and they expect the ball to hit the back of the net. That's it. Whether it's the team not playing to Salah or Salah not hitting the heights of last season, which was always going to be a tough thing, especially after the amount of goals that he scored. How long do we hold on to him? Next week, in Game Week 9, he was actually either my best captaincy choice or my second best captaincy choice, because I do think Liverpool will go strong. But there's talk of him, you hear Jamie Carragher say Salah shouldn't start shouldn't start both of their next away games in the Champions League and away next week in the league as well. This is Mo Salah talking about. This is the most tried and trusted asset across all fantasy formats, and we're having this much doubt. He's down to 6.8 million. He's got one more Champions League game in the week. I've got a sneaky feeling he might be benched. Onto my own team this week. I think it's 84 points scored so far with just the Premier League fixtures. No players playing on the Monday night, but we are finally up to 11 doublers on the team. I brought in Malik Thior, which is why I said earlier I need to know how to start pronouncing his name. Brought him in for the 0.3 rise this week. It was at 3.5 million, 3.8 million now. And my other transfer was Dean Henderson in goal for the one and only Royce. Now, I always knew Sunderland at home to Wolves would have the potential for a clean sheet, a big potential for clean sheet, bearing in mind how poor Wolves are. But with maybe losing that 0.1 on him, I wanted to move to a European goalkeeper. The choices were Henderson at 3.7, Donnarumma at 3.7, who was going to go up 0.3. But the thing in the back of my mind was he wasn't going to be playing that Carabao Cup game. You had Matt Sells in there as well, and Mohammadashvili, all within that 2.8 to 3.7 million range. Sells being the very base and bottom of that price bracket. Sells ended up with a 2-pointer, I think it was. Henderson with a 1-pointer, Donnarumma with an 8-pointer, and Mohammadashvili with a 2-pointer. So unless I went for Donnarumma, I wouldn't have got any immediate sort of benefit from that. Henderson was brought in on the basis that he was going to play the majority of games. Now, I always had this worry at the start of the season that Walter Benitez would get a few minutes. Now, he did have an injury. This Benitez, that is. He picked up a finger injury when he played against Millwall in the Cup, which kept him out for a little while. But to me, that Conference League is so important, especially the first few games. If you can win, I don't know how many fixtures it actually is for the Conference League. I know for the Europa League and the Champions League, it's either 8 or 10 fixtures. I think for the Conference League, it's either 6 or 8. So if you can win the first, let's say, 2 or 3 games, it puts you on the front foot going forward, which is why I think Henderson will start this game. At least I'm got my fingers crossed that he will, because if he comes out of this with just 1 point and not playing the second fixture, he's going to be going down 0.2, 0.3 in price again. And I did actually lose 0.1 on him just buying him. I actually thought he would stay the same price, so that would be a really, really poor transfer if he doesn't play that Larnaca fixture. Gabriel I had from a previous week, picking up the 11-pointer. Atletico Madrid in the week. Be intrigued to see how that fixture plays out, of course. Atletico Madrid are historically a very defensive team, very well structured, similar to how Arsenal play. So we've got a few demons to exercise on that front with regards to, if you can remember, it was either the 2017 or 2018 Europa League semi-final. Atletico Madrid had 10 men. Koscielny kicked the ball against his face, and we ended up drawing that game 1-1. So we've got a little bit of payback for that one. Munoz with a 10-pointer. I think he will be one of them players that definitely plays in the week against Larnaca. They've got Nathaniel Klein on the bench, but it doesn't look like he's the flavour of the week at all, even for rotation. And I think there won't be too much rotation with the 3 centre-halves and the right back. It'd be more Mitchell and maybe the goalkeeper. But as I said, my fingers are crossed that Henderson plays up. I think when I put Henderson in, he's going to have back-to-back doubles. A double in game week 8, a double in game week 9, and a single in game week 10, I think it is. Now, for me, if he can only play 4 fixtures out of those 5, I'm hoping Larnaca he plays, and then if he gets rested away to Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, I'll take that. Ponce with just a 2-pointer. Got a single game week next week with no Carabao Cup double. And Malik Thiaw. Newcastle fans, comment down below on how on earth I'm meant to pronounce this man's name. Please save me. I brought him in this week, as I said. He did get that 0.3 increase. Only the 1-pointer. With Newcastle's defensive capabilities this season and their struggles for defensive assets, mainly at fullback, pushing Dan Burnett from that left centre-half position to left back with the absence of Livramento and, I've got his name, that Hall. I think this Newcastle defender, I'm going to stop saying his name, this Newcastle defender that I've put in, I think he should be okay for the Benfica game midweek. He normally picks up 3 to 4 points if they concede, so it was a very low return for this one. Anthony Gordon, we spoke about, that 70-minute mark substitution is becoming really irritating, so it's one to note. Kudos 4-pointer, solid, steady, nothing to ride home about. Kamada, very same, 5 points, picking up a few tackles, picking up a bonus point, a couple of appearance points. I think he might be another one in that Palace team that could potentially get a rest in this one, whether it's him or Pino. I think one of them won't start this one, and it will be Will Hughes or Eddie Nketiah playing in that number 10 role. Elliot Anderson, I've liked him as a pick. 7-pointer. Porto at home, a very difficult fixture for Forest. Even the Forest team from last season, let alone the Forest team from this season that showed really poor form and just not a lot of ability. Mo Salah, 4 points. He's got that game in the week. I think they're playing Frankfurt away. I'm tempted to say. He needs to get a return in that one. Otherwise, those serious questions might well have an answer. Also for Elliot Anderson, he is the same as Ezra Konsa. Both of them two players only have a single game in game week 9, not a double. And Erling Haaland, he might have a double in game week 9, but I'd be astounded if he plays the Carabao Cup fixture. 18 points, couple of goals, 4 shots on target, as we spoke about. 36 points with the captaincy and that Villarreal game still to play. There's a few still yet to be seen in my team going into game week 9. I need to see how the team's shaping up after coming through all those European games in midweek. Maybe if there's an injury or something that springs out that needs dealing with, I might put a few of my other plans on the back burner. But to me, Salah, Gordon, Anderson, Konsa, and maybe Henderson if he doesn't play that game. I might get cold feet even after just bringing him in for one game week. So there's quite a few questions with regards to my squad going into game week 9. And finally, to end this little recap video, it is that time of the week where we look at the leaderboard for my league. As always, the code is in the description below. Go join. It's completely free, no cost at all. There's over 450, 460 members in there. And if you are in the top 10 when I make one of these videos, you will appear on the screen in all its glory. Now, unfortunately, I have dropped out. I was in 8th position in the previous video that we did the leaderboard. I think I'm about 17th or something at the minute. So hopefully I can sneak my way back in there after the end of game week 8, that is. I've had a little look at the top 10. A few boosters played this week, a few goal bonuses. Sorry, a few goal boosters. I've seen Erling Haaland come in with quite big scores. Jay Milligan, bring back Ange. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. 879 points, 107 points for this game week alone. I had a little look, and if memory serves right, he's in the top 10 in the world currently. Ridiculous start to the season. Plucky player, Fell Short, 96 points this week in 2nd position, 856 overall. Stranger Mings, G Richards in 3rd position, 93 points for this game week, 838 total. And then from 4th to 10th, we've got AFC Lambretta, we've got El Lambert. 5th position, Happy Campers, S. Kem, I think that is. 6th position, Dan United, D Stocks. 7th position, Forever 20, N Perry with 84 points this week, identical to myself. Rock and Roll Sar, J Dean in 8th position. In 9th, Bratsworth FC, Chris Hyatt, C Hyatt, that is, my apologies. And in 10th position, it's NCFC 1862, and that is P Ashmore. 87 points this week, 816 overall. Some very solid returns. As I said, Jay Milligan, fantastic start, mate. Well done. Currently in, at least when I checked, he was in the top 10 in the world, which is ridiculous. And I don't think he's played any chips yet either. So hopefully for your sakes, long may it continue. That does indeed conclude today's video. I hope you've enjoyed this little game week roundup so far. We've got the European games still to come. Personally, one of the many reasons why I love Sun Dream Team. Whereas other fantasy formats are slowly wrapping up, we're barely halfway through. We can keep our eye on all kinds of football and hope that our players pick up the pace, specifically in my team's case, because it's been a slow week so far, only 84 points. I think the Mateta haul has boosted quite a few people up, as it really should. 3 goals, ridiculous return. Leave a comment down below on how your week's going so far. Has it been a good one? Has it been an okay one? How have those transfers going from game week 7 to game week 8 gone for you so far? Down in the description below is my socials. We've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, we've got X. Go join over on X. I think closing in on 500 followers over there, so do go check it out. And thank you very much for watching today's video. Go check out the previous content on the channel. Yes, it might be not game week 8 related, but there's a lot of data that is very important. As we spoke about earlier in the video, the Mateta shots on target one, we didn't know it was coming, we didn't see the hat trick coming, but maybe the data showed it and gave us a little early insight into it. So thank you very much for watching today's video, and you'll be seeing me on a new one very soon.